I'm Jason, UFC, and today we have a story about UFC number one ranked featherweight contender. Ilia Topuria says, I'm never going to give Max Holloway, Yair Rodríguez, or Brian Ortega the chance to fight for the UFC featherweight championship. If Ilia Topuria is going to be crowned featherweight champion at UFC 298, it appears his pool of potential next opponents at 145 pounds featherweight division would be severely limited. Topuria, who is currently occupying the number one ranked spot in division, is set to fight Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 298. Ilia Topuria, who is perfect 6-0 in his UFC career, 14-0 in his MMA career, dominant performances against the likes of Bryce Mitchell, Josh Emmett, to name a few. With his winning form and talent in mind, Topuria hasn't shed away from expressing his confidence. In fact, he has vowed to completely smash Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 298. Okay, so let's get to the good part where Ilia Topuria talks about his contenders. So this is what Ilia Topuria says about the contenders after he smashes Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 298. This is what Ilia Topuria says. How would Holloway be a big fight for me? Ariel Helwani asked him if Holloway would be a big fight for him. I'm going to beat the guy who whipped Holloway 3 times. How? It doesn't make any sense, Topuria says. Max Holloway, Yair Rodríguez, Brian Ortega, all of them, they can go and retire. I'm never going to give them the chance to fight for a title. Never. Okay, wow. And then this is what Topuria says next. I don't know who would challenge for the title. To be honest, the UFC knows that better than me. Topuria continued. I don't think they're going to even offer me Max or the names I told you before. We'll see. I'm just completely focused on my upcoming fight, and we'll see what the future holds for me. Okay, so that's basically the end of the article. We don't have to read any more else. Just the 2 quotes from Ilia Topuria. Yeah, I'm an MMA casual, so I don't follow everything with the sport. I did watch this interview with on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani. This was it wasn't really brought up much, right? Like it was a good 26 minute interview, but his next opponent wasn't really talked about. Like he didn't really go into the specific reasons as to why he's not going to fight Max or Brian or Yair, the winner of Yair and Brian, or if Max wins. Max is going currently in the lightweight division, challenging Justin Gaethje for the BMF title at UFC, I believe 300. So obviously we're not going to see Max in the featherweight conversation for a few months. Whatever happens with Volkanovski after UFC 298, if it's a unanimous decision victory, if Volkanovski loses a unanimous decision victory, he could still get a rematch, right? Like, unless Ilia Topuria does go in there, and Volkanovski's coming off of a first-round head kick KO knockout. So if Ilia Topuria goes in there and finishes Volkanovski may not get a rematch. But if it's a decision, even if it's a unanimous decision victory, I would not be surprised if the UFC gave Alexander Volkanovski the rematch. Brian Ortega and Yair Rodríguez, I believe they're scheduled to fight next, right? I believe that. I heard that. Like I said, I'm a casual, so I can't follow all of this. But what I did want to comment about this interview when I was watching this interview was just like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with UFC fighters. It's not mentioned in this interview, but the fighter that he did name, Ariel Helwani threw a few more names out there, but Ilia Topuria threw out one name specifically himself. Ariel Helwani asked him about Sean O'Malley. Ariel Helwani asked him about Paddy Pimblett. But Ilia Topuria, the name that he threw out there was Conor McGregor, right? So I don't really know what's going on there. But my quote-unquote problem with this story is kind of what I'm seeing a little bit too much with almost all UFC fighters. Let me give you some examples. Alexander Pereira, UFC light heavyweight champion, There's been some talks, and he's downplayed it, but there has been some talks of him moving up and fighting Tom Aspinall for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. DDP, Dricus du Plessis, was asked at his last press conference with Alexander sitting there in the stands. After if DDP wins this fight versus Sean Strickland, would he move up from the middleweight division to fight Alex Pereira? DDP, Dricus du Plessis, who's the current middleweight champion, said yes, 100%. I'm looking forward to moving up. Sooner than later, I will be moving up to the light heavyweight division. Leon Edwards, the welterweight champion, he said he was looking at the winner of Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland. Islam Makhachev says he's looking at Islam Makhachev, who is the current lightweight champion in UFC, says he's looking at Leon Edwards. He wants to go up. And Islam Makhachev has fought Alexander Volkanovski, who's a featherweight twice. So, Alexander Volkanovski, who's the current featherweight champion, he's moved up twice to fight for the UFC lightweight championship. Sean O'Malley, who Ariel Helwani asked Ilia Topuria about. Sean O'Malley says he's going to be at UFC 298 to see who's the winner of that fight. If whoever the winner is of that fight, he wants to fight them. Sean O'Malley is the current bantamweight champion, and he is scheduled for a fight at UFC 299 where he's going to be taking on Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera has a victory over Sean O'Malley. So it just seems like every single champion, and listen, I'm a MMA casual, so I don't follow everything, but it seems like every single champion right now in the UFC, in the UFC, all of them are talking about moving up, right? Like if you look at, let's say we look at Alex Pereira, he has not defended his belt. Dricus du Plessis has not defended his belt. Leon Edwards has defended his belt twice. Islam Makhachev has defended his belt twice, but those two fights were versus featherweights. Alexander Volkanovski has defended his belt a bunch of times, and Sean O'Malley has not defended his belt once. So it's a lot of talk, and then we have Ilia Topuria, who before even winning the featherweight championship versus what many consider Alexander Volkanovski as the greatest featherweight champion, he's not even talking about defending his belt. He's talking about going up and fighting Conor McGregor. It's like, what is going on with UFC fighters, right? I'm a casual. Back in the days, there was like this unwritten rule that you're not really a champion unless you defend your belt. But it's like the new rule now with the UFC is like, you're not really a champion unless you become double champion. But I'm an MMA casual, so what the hell do I know? Let me know your opinion of this story. Who do you think is going to win, right? Like, it's all fun to fantasy book and get in front of all this stuff, but is Ilia Topuria going to defeat Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 298? That is the question. I would say I'm kind of rooting for Ilia Topuria. I feel like Alexander Volkanovski, after coming off of a head kick loss, after going up to the lightweight division, that fight only happened 4 months ago. Going up to the lightweight division, now cutting back down, a head kick knockout, it's a bit much, and Ilia Topuria is a serious problem. So I'm going to say that I think Ilia Topuria is going to actually win the match at UFC 298, but let me know your opinion of this story. I'm Jason, UFC. Today we had a story about UFC number one ranked, I call him number one ranked because he's fighting for the championship, number one ranked featherweight contender. Ilia Topuria says, I'm never, ever going to give Max Holloway, Yair Rodríguez, Brian Ortega the chance to fight for the UFC featherweight championship. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.